So, this will be the story of Goldie, CEO of Golden Apple Enterprises, Isekaing into Skyrim. This particular part of the video is going to be me creating my character from scratch and then going over some mod configurations, but it will not be the story or the gameplay. So let's start. So if any of you are from my Twitch, you know a little bit about who my character Goldie is. So that is essentially we are going to attempt. He is not visibly old. He doesn't need any dirt or scars or war paint. None of that is necessary. Let's edit the nose. That's oop. No. Huh. That looks okay. I do want to come down. Let's go to eyes next. No, no. Let's see. So Goldie, of course, has striking blue eyes. He's a blue-eyed boy. Remove all the tints to his eyes. Let us see here. That's fine. Now then, let's see what the best... that looks a little scrubby. That has a braid in it, but honestly is not too bad. Okay, no. I am trying to look... You know? That could do it, for sure. Goldie does not have a beard. He is an immortal apple. That's it. Very golden hair. And to kind of fit in the theme... There we go. Now I do have several mods installed, so we're going to let some of them load, but of course one of them is the alternate start mod. We are going to be playing the vanilla start. I just like doing this to actually create the character, and then let mods load and maybe configure the majority of them if they need any configuration. Do-do-do. Already sleepy thanks to I Need. He's a sleepy boy. Nobody responds to my pounding on the door. So Goldie, as I mentioned from the beginning, is the CEO of Golden Apple Enterprises, G.A.E for short. He's a very big businessman, so his goal will be to gain wealth and power, as well as potentially owning businesses, if possible. He'll try to get his hands on what he can. So, let's see here. So we have the armor and clothing extension. better vampires if we decide to go down that route. We have Campfire, of course, Deadly Dragons, Enhanced Blood. Frostfire is a great mod. Honed Metal is very interesting because it allows you to have others craft for you. Frostfall is it basically makes Skyrim actually weather affected. You will get cold, you will freeze. Campfire goes along with that because it allows you to do survival. Immersive AFT is for amazing follower tweaks that allows you to tweak your followers, and you can even recruit more than one follower at a time. So let's go through these. So armor and clothing extension actually comes from the mod. It's like an extension off of what's that mod called? I will have a full list of mods, but basically it repairs some inconsistencies with clothing and armor that's present in the base game. I also got, of course, better vampires and better vampire lords. If we decide to go the vampire route, this will make it much more interesting, but we shouldn't need to do anything in there right now. Campfire, Deadly Dragons, as I mentioned, to try to get dragons a little more ability. I am not moving it off of vanilla for now, but it is going to give it special abilities like stagger and special abilities and knockback and all of that. Enhanced Blood just makes blood a little more realistic in the game. Frostfall, as I mentioned before, is a weather mod that you kind of have to be forced to use the Campfire mod so you don't freeze to death if you go to really cold areas. Honed Metal, we went over amazing follower tweaks that just tweaks your followers. Immersive Armors just adds a bunch of armors to the game, so it is a very interesting armors. Then there is I think I have immersive weapons as well. Immersive creatures, it looks like it's not loading the file here, so let's go back in. Immersive creatures, so there's only a few tweaks that I'd like to move here, and that is toggling off events, perks, and dragon souls for dwarven mechanical dragons, as well as I think this is just way too long to wait around the possibility of a skeleton resurrecting, so I move it to 2 to 5 seconds because we're crunched for time. We don't have time for that, to wait around to see if a skeleton's going to resurrect behind me. I moved Cliff Racers this little time only. The rest should be fine. War Guardians and Spider Egg spawns. We don't want to get too crazy here, so I'm going to move this down to 1 additional actor. And Night spawns the perfect blood hybrid. I've never actually faced one of them, interestingly enough. I just think it's not that interesting to be facing something that's like a hybrid between the two. That's not very, as far as I know, it's not in Elder Scroll lore very much. Immersive HUD. This allows me to kind of disable the HUD above that points where you're going at all times. However, you can hit the X key to basically the X key basically allows you to show the HUD if you absolutely need it. Immersive world encounters. There's a lot of immersive to try to get you into the game, but this just adds a bunch of events that could possibly happen. I need, as I mentioned, basically makes you eat, drink, and sleep. And I'm just going to toggle all of these down 1 notch because I want that feature, but I don't want it to kind of take over the game of me just eating and drinking all the time. That's all fine. I think notifications should be set to N for need. This is a character mod that I won't go into right now, but I'm hoping to use that character in our playthrough. We are using Ordinator, which basically overhauls the perk tree. So we will definitely see that. Realistic Waters 2 basically makes the waters a lot better. Run for Your Lives, and simply Run for Your Lives kind of forces people, if a dragon or something is attacking and they're normal citizens that really can't help, or add anything to it, they will attempt to run, hide, or run into their house, which is pretty realistic. Simply knock allows us to knock on doors to try to see if we can get in. And I'm not going to tweak any of those settings because the default should be good. We have the Summer Mist enchants, which just adds a bunch of enchants. We'll go over this in a second. Wearable lanterns allows you to have lanterns because we do have realistic lighting installed, so things should be marginally darker, so we might need torches and lanterns. Wet and cold just adds better effects for that, and also forces NPCs. Well, it doesn't force them, but it allows NPCs to put on cloaks and hoods, which we have installed with a bunch of other mods. Timing is everything, so we're going to tweak some of these. I'm going to say Dawnguard's not going to try to recruit me until I'm level 25. Dragonborn. We're going to set that for after the Horn of Jorgen Windcaller. Some other quests I want to tweak here. Want to up the level on some of these. Uh-huh. The Ebony Warrior. That is fine. Extra quests. We're gonna say Thalmor Squad like that. Move that up there a little bit. Alright. So I think that actually goes over everything that we need there. So, I lied. There's actually quite a bit more to go over mod-wise, but that's okay. We're going to take care of that right here. So let us begin. Sky UI. Unofficial Skyrim patch. These are just mostly patches at the beginning, like the static mesh improvement, improves some of the meshes. Quality world map. Improves the map and gives it a higher quality when you look at it. We went over this. Address libraries is required by several of the mods. We talked about armors, blood, realistic. Total character makeover is what made the character we were creating just a few seconds ago look a little better. Cutting room floor restores some content to Skyrim that was missing, like that was developed, either finished or wasn't finished, and then it was finished up by the mod author, and that is where that mod comes from. We also have immersive weapons, like I did mention that we had that. Cloaks of Skyrim I added as well, because that's good for campfire and frostfall. Better dialogue controls is going to increase our controls quite a bit. Then we have a few G.A.E mods. G.A.E improves the some of the aesthetics of the cities and makes them look a little better. I have some patches, including referring to the carriage and ferry travel overhaul, which is down here. The Parthamex's Dilemma, I'm not going to spoil, but it fixes something in the late game. Book covers of Skyrim changes the book covers of things to make them a little more high quality. Better message boxes is very similar to better dialogue controls. Convenient horses we did not go over, but it makes the horses better. Belt fastened quivers should be working, but I think it's not working, but we will see that in a moment. But rustic clothing improves the clothings. to make them look a little more rustic, and is required by a couple of the mods that I use a little later. Winter is Coming is also a cloaks mod, but it's more of a heavy cloak mod. The choice is yours, allows me to say no to a lot of quests that before you could not say no to. This is what was referred to over here in this patch. It improves the overhauling the transportation because we will not be fast traveling anywhere normally, but it does add a carriage to Falkreath and Winterhold, which previously lacked it. Covered carriage adds covers to some of the carriages in the colder areas. Royal Armory gives important characters their own unique artifact. Populated cities, towns, and villages adds a bunch of people to those locations to make it feel more alive. Skyrim Sewers adds sewer system to the major holds. I think it's 5 of the holds. I think it's Solitude, Whiterun, Markhearth, Riften, and Windhelm. I think those are the only ones that are given a sewer system. There's a patch here, and then I have some mods that help with survival in the sense, and also not just survival, but adds a little more realistic settlements to the locations, like Amberguard. These are locations, the majority of them anyway, are locations mentioned in other Elder Scrolls media that is not included in the game. But basically all they are is settlements, usually either small villages or really tiny hamlets. The same thing with these that are overhaul little areas to make them actually into settlements that before had like no buildings in them. We have a thing that overalls Raven Rock if we ever get to Solstheim. Hearthfires buy more from stewards, allows you to buy more materials that you previously could not purchase. We have some fixes and some patches coming down here. Let's see here. Those are all patches. Narrative loot adds a bunch of loot that is not weapons and armor and stuff like that. Like, you'll see a lot more pots and special Nordic items and Cyrodiilic and meaty items as well. Hone metal we did talk about. Then I have some guild mods, like the Companions Earn Your Stripes, that forces you to work a little harder to actually progress in the Companions storyline. JK's College of Winterhold improves the aesthetics of the Winterhold. We added some amulets with Amulets of Skyrim that were present in other games. Actually, I think that one just adds a variety of amulets, if I'm correct. We talked about I Need, Frostfall, and Campfire were talked about as well. We have some patches here. We talked briefly about Oridinator, perks of Skyrim, that improves the perks and makes it a little more customizable and feel like that you're actually trying stuff. These add artifacts. These artifacts from Oblivion. These are artifacts from Morrowind. This adds the ability to have some left-handed rings. This allows us to accept more than one Thieves Guild job. Opulent Thieves Guild improves the look of the Thieves Guild, and we have some patches for that. Landlord is an interesting thing, because I did mention that Goldie's Ghoul will be trying to purchase some properties, and this should enable it if it works correctly. The same thing with these two enable or these three, actually. I think it's just these two. This just expands that mind, but these two add those possibilities. The dynamic looting system will improve some of the quality of our loot. Lock related loot does that as well. Then we have security overhaul. This adds variety to the locks. We have Thane Weapons Reborn that improves the Thane weapons. We have the classic classes and birth signs, which you saw us you will see us, because we technically forgot this before we started, and in the next video we will randomly start doing this, but I try to make it fit in. So mysticism improves magic, and this improves it into Oridinator. This adds follower, a potential follower. We talked about immersive HUD. Man those borders forces you to, or forces the holds to man their borders by improving or putting fortifications at certain locations. It puts guards there to make it more realistic. Better courier. Basically, if you've ever played Skyrim, the courier is a little bit of a menace. to say the least. This basically stops him from being immortal, adds a couple different couriers, stops that they will randomly find you in caves or in the middle of the night or any of that crazy stuff, and they are no longer immortal. So they're also not going to spot you if you're invisible. Beyond Skyrim wares, a Tamriel adds in some different wares, and then we again go into some patches. This adds a little bonus to the Stones of Baranzaya. This improves the guard dialogue. It makes realistic lighting, where I mentioned that it is going to be darker. We mentioned that. This adds more add-on to the book covers of Skyrim. It just adds lost books from other games. Realistic ragdoll and force improves what happens when a character dies. Instead of just flying away crazily, it'll ragdoll instead. Noble Skyrim improves some of the texture qualities. Embers goes well with realistic lighting overhaul, because that is going to improve how fire looks. Multiple floors sandboxing will force some NPCs, not force, but some NPCs that would not go to second floors, which didn't make sense, will. So we have another follower mod here. Realistic Conversations tries to fix some of the issues with conversations about people yelling at you across the room. We mentioned Simply Knock. Diverse Skyrim, all this does is it's still low chance, but it adds the possibility of seeing like an orc legionary, because technically orcs were in the Empire. It adds the possibility of seeing some other human races among the Stormcloaks, but it makes them rare, but it just adds that possibility where it was not there before. So these two are part of the security overhaul that I mentioned with the locks. Better harvesting kind of improves the gathering of materials to make it more realistic. We have a couple Simply Knock things. We have a couple more villages here to fill out some of the lesser areas. Populated lands, roads, and paths do similar to, I think it's actually by the same person, but the one that populates the villages. The Brotherhood of Old increases the Dark Brotherhood plot line after the original. Royal Armory gives the same thing with the unique weapons. This gives the armor. We have a couple more patches. We have weapons, armors, and clothing and clutter fixes. Worf, which I mentioned before, or work is what it's called, I think. That's the one that improves different things that was inconsistent. This improves on that. Wearable lanterns, we mentioned. Open world loot and encounter zone loot overhaul. So this basically makes the world unleveled, so I can run across places I cannot handle, and also gives you a chance to run across some unique loot. Timing is everything we talked about. Summer Mist with the enchantments we talked about. Reliquary of Myth makes artifacts actually worth a lot if we go for them. We have a couple other patches here, including a merged and batched patch, and that is kind of all we were missing. I wanted to stick that in here, and also for you on YouTube who don't know me from other things, this is what I was talking about with my character Goldie. Right now it's only a PNG tuber, but it is you get a little look into it as we went over this. But thank you. We are going to jump back into the rest of it now. We can officially begin, and it does honestly look very dark in here for not by a light source, which is kind of what I wanted to go for. So we can actually begin the story of Goldie in Skyrim. So let us actually I'm gonna toggle off I need for a moment, and then toggle it back on. This will remove that I'm somehow tired already, because I have a feeling that we're going to get quite the sleep that we need. So shall we begin?
Approach, my child, and choose where your new life shall begin.
I got caught crossing the border illegally.
Such is the strange and twisted hand of fate.
Alright, are we ready? Our world and adventure begins now.